All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to Bike to Campus Week. My name is Nick Goodfellow. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator at the University of Pittsburgh. So Bike to Campus Week is a collaborative effort between the University of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon, and Bike Pittsburgh to welcome all new and returning riders to Pittsburgh campuses. This year, we've turned the event into a virtual festival with more than a dozen sessions to cover all the essentials to starting a bike commute. So this session is being recorded, so you'll be able to view this next week, starting next week on the Bike Pittsburgh YouTube page. You can encourage you to share this with anybody who's interested in cycling or would like to know more about getting around Carnegie Mellon. We are streaming live on Zoom as well as on Facebook. You can use the chat or comments section to write any questions you have, and I'll relay them to our guests here. So speaking of guests, I'll turn it over to Karen and Mary, who will introduce themselves and take it over.
Hi, I'm Karen Brooks. I'm the bike consultant for Carnegie Mellon. Work on all things bike related. I'm also on the board of Bike Pittsburgh. And with me today is Mary Shaw, bike advocate extraordinaire. Mary, would you like to say some more about yourself?
I've been biking in Pittsburgh for many years. I also teach on the computer science faculty at Carnegie Mellon. My husband and I write guidebooks for the area and try to make the infrastructure better for all of us.
Freewheeling Easy in Western Pennsylvania is the name of the guidebook, and it's excellent.
And that's a guidebook to the motor-free trails in Western Pennsylvania. If you don't want to ride on the highway and you don't want to go out rock hopping, it's the place to get mellow bicycling.
Yeah, and it's expanded quite a bit. I remember when you first came out, well, the first time I saw it, at least 20 years ago, it was slimmer, and it's pretty fat now. There's a lot of trails.
The first edition was about 100 pages and covered all of Western Pennsylvania, and they build trails faster than we write, so we had to break it into segments. The edition that's out now covers northeast of Pittsburgh, and it's 250 pages or so.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, lots of new opportunities.
Yeah. So what we thought we'd do today is talk about how to get around by bike around the CMU campus. Talk about some of our favorite routes, places that you might want to avoid, tips and tricks. Mary also has a set of easy bicycle loops around the CMU campus that she's going to present that also connect to some useful spots around campus. So to start with, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. Might take me just a minute, but the thing about CMU campus that is different than some other campuses, it's pretty small, but it's surrounded on all sides by an urban environment. So what's nice about that is you can get around pretty easily. There's maybe some parts that might be intimidating for some folks. So what I have here, can you guys see my screen? Can you see a map? Okay. This is the main part of campus. This sort of like rectangle triangle looking thing right here. The green down below is Shenley Park. Zooming out a bit, we have Squirrel Hill neighborhoods to the right. Oakland to the left, Shady Side is towards the top, towards the north. And yeah, one of the things that we're most proud of is Forbes Avenue that you notice goes right in front of the Cohen University Center. That now has bike lanes. Those go all the way down through Pitt campus as well. That was a collaborative effort that took over a decade. The universities, Pitt and CMU, working with City Pittsburgh and getting PennDOT to transform Forbes Avenue into a more bike-friendly street. PennDOT's the state body that controls streets, and they at first were kind of reluctant to do anything bike-friendly, but so Forbes Avenue is something that I appreciate pretty much every day. It's just a wonderful way to get down through CMU campus to Pitt campus and on into points west. But talking about campus specifically, there's a couple things that you may or may not know. Forbes Avenue is wonderful. Morwood Avenue going towards Shadyside is not so wonderful. I saw the intersection of Forbes and 5th was listed among the more dangerous intersections in the city of Pittsburgh. Part of that is because there are 2 lanes going north on Morwood, but it's a little bit confusing which lane goes straight. It's the left of the 2 lanes that goes straight. Traffic here, despite this being a small street, can be pretty fast. I have ridden my bike on it, but I understand for a lot of people it's not the most comfortable way to go towards Shadyside. So I have here highlighted in yellow an alternate route, and that is to get on Forbes, use the bike lane, and then make a right on Neville Street. That's a lot quieter. It's got at least Sharrows. I think there might even be a bike lane on part of it. And then from there, you can get onto Ellsworth Avenue and access most of Shadyside from that. So that just wanted to highlight that pretty quickly. Mary's going to talk about more ways to get into Shenley Park and Squirrel Hill and Oakland, all the other sides of campus. Something else I wanted to point out, I have here highlighted a couple different ways to get to the Junction Hollow Trail. And just to zoom out for a second, Junction Hollow is to the west of campus between CMU and Pitt. That kind of goes down in a gully between the 2 campuses. And there's a street that then connects to a trail called the Junction Hollow Trail that then you can access what's colloquially known in Pittsburgh as the Jail Trail, AKA the Eliza Furnace Trail. And that goes along the river, connects via the Hot Metal Bridge to the south side. It goes, the Eliza Furnace Trail itself goes all the way downtown. And that's kind of a gateway to a bunch of different places outside campus. It's also a really nice ride. So just to show you how you can get from the center part of campus onto these trails pretty quickly. Starting, we both used the clock on the main part of campus right near the cut as a starting point. There's 2 different ways you can get to down through campus to the trail. And you know by now, if you've been on campus, the cut is kind of on one level, and these buildings that are not very far away are quite a bit downhill. There's a big difference in elevation from east to west in a very small space. So first route I'll highlight is going from the clock through campus, and then to zoom in, you can turn left and kind of thread your way through the buildings next to Purnell Center, between that and Wagner Hall, going kind of behind Sciart. You will have to go out onto Forbes Avenue for a brief stretch, or what I like to do is to get off my bike and walk it on the sidewalk here. And then you can enter at the, there's a driveway next to Hamburg Hall right here. And then that connects to a neat little series of trails. There's actually a couple different ways. You can go on kind of a driveway here, or you could go on this green squiggly line that's a trail. They both end up at the same place. This kind of narrow paved path then continues and goes under Gates, under like outside the 3rd floor of the Gates building. Interesting side note, there is a bike fix-it station outside Gates right there. So you can go underneath Gates, and then this winding path continues on down the gully through, there's kind of a facilities garage area there. And then it connects to Hammerschlag Drive that goes kind of down in between the buildings. And then Hammerschlag goes around and connects to, there's the lower levels have the parking garage. And then you kind of go through the parking garage and pop out on Boundary Street. So this is a way to kind of snake down and get down the elevation without having to get out onto major streets. From Boundary Street, you continue downward, downhill, that is, and south. And then you kind of see where the blue line goes down, 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 connects to the Junction Hollow Trail. And that's right here by Panther Hollow Lake. Eventually, CMU has plans to connect this, once the trail is finished, it'll go right to the edge of CMU campus. And CMU has actually created a stub so that you'll be able to go from campus all the way onto the trail without even going onto Boundary Street. That's probably going to be a ways away. But Mary and I have been attending public meetings where we've been talking about it for some years, and it will happen someday. So just to back up, that's one way to get from campus to the trail. There is another one. You can go from the clock in the other direction out to Fruh Street. And Fruh Street is the one that goes behind Porter and Baker Halls and borders Shenley Park. And then from Fruh Street, you can turn right onto the driveway that's next to Scaife Hall of Engineering, and that goes down, also kind of drops in elevation quite a bit. And then it snakes down and connects to this same area where there's the facilities garage. That one might be simpler. I kind of like this fun twisty trail, but if you're confused about how to get to that, which I can understand, this way is certainly simpler. The point of all this is that it's pretty easy to get from the central part of campus onto this pretty nice trail, and then the city's your oyster, basically, pretty easily from there. And let's back up just a sec. Zooming out. You can see, yeah, that sort of zigzag path there. Again, that's quite a bit of drop of elevation down to the gully that the Junction Hollow Trail goes through. Someday, I would love to have some painting on the actual pavement to show everyone where to go, but that's also going to be a ways away. And now Mary's going to show us the loops that she has constructed, that she and Roy have constructed to get to all these points south, west, and east of campus.
Okay, so if you will stop sharing, I can pull mine up.
Yeah, just a sec.
And that's going to be here. So are you seeing the share?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Last May, the CMU bike pedestrian group was talking about particularly the problem that people who were still on campus had with getting exercise since they had closed down all the athletic fields and gyms and things for COVID. And so Roy and I said, well, we know some short, easy loops around the area. Why don't we just write them up so that we'll have a recreational opportunity for people who are looking for something. And then as time has passed, more and more people are bicycling, and so it looks like an interesting resource. The idea was to find some relatively short, like 2 or 3 mile loops, to connect them so that you could put them together into longer trips. And to make them as non-intimidating as possible given the traffic and the terrain around campus. And so we favored the use of bike lanes of old roads that had become trails because they're closed to traffic, and streets in the park that don't carry very much traffic. And in fact, some streets in Oakland that, believe it or not, don't carry very much traffic. So we patched these together into a collection of loops that you can see here. We also wrote them up on paper. And so at this link, it says download the complete set in PDF. Oh, I should say the address of this is freewheelingeasy.com CMU loops, like that. So if you print the PDF, you'll find a bunch of things that look like this. On one side there's one sheet for each of the 5 loops. And on one side, there's the map for that loop and indications like here and here are places where it connects with other loops. There's a cue sheet that is directions, and it's color coded so that you can tell which parts are on roads and which parts are on bike lanes next to roads and which parts are off roads entirely. So little hints about tricky bits and pointers to the nearest Healthy Ride stations. And you'll see that both here and on the interactive map, the Healthy Ride stations are marked so that if you don't have your own bike, you can see where you can pick up a bike to get going. Anyway, there's paper versions. They're set up as trifold flyers, and if that's your thing, you can print them out. If you'd rather take it online, you can go here. So if you click on this, that will then take you to an interactive map. The interactive map will let you select the things that you're interested in. So let me just turn off all except this one loop around CMU. So what Karen just showed you was we both keyed off the clock as a starting point. That's here. And she showed you how to come down the little windy trail underneath the Gates building and come out on Boundary Street and go down toward the river. So Boundary Street is 50 or 100 feet lower in elevation than the rest of campus. And the things that I've got drawn here don't connect with that because they're 50 feet higher up in the air. So one of these loops starts at the clock, comes out to Frew Street, which is pretty low traffic, hooks over to Shenley Drive, and the only piece of this that's actually in traffic is this downhill stretch on Shenley Drive. It's a pretty good downhill, and so you can coast it. It's a wide street, not a big problem. And all the rest of this is on protected bike lanes or bike lanes of one kind or another. So it's unintimidating in that way.
Your cursor is not showing.
Roy says my cursor is not showing. My cursor not showing?
I can see it, actually. I can see it.
Okay. This is a loop that goes around campus, but in addition, it's the way into Oakland. So there's another loop that goes through Oakland and Shenley Park. And if you come down around the cycle track along Shenley Drive here to Shenley Plaza, this is the place that has the conical tent-shaped eating area and the carousel. You come to here, and then there's a turn that goes under Posvar Hall and comes out on Bouquet Street to the shopping district of Oakland, which is this yellowish area. And so this gets you into Oakland without dealing with Forbes Avenue. And you can, of course, ride the CMU loop in the other direction using the Forbes Avenue bike lanes. The thing to note is that beginning about here, that the Forbes Avenue traffic is one-way eastbound. Now, one of the great things that we accomplished a couple of years ago with the city was to get a bicycle lane that goes westbound. That is a contraflow bicycle lane so that you can continue riding against traffic in a protected bike lane as far as Bigelow Boulevard. But at this point, you can no longer continue riding westward on Forbes Avenue. And so if you're coming west on Forbes, when you get there to Bigelow at the edge of Shenley Plaza, you need to turn down a half a block and come over and pick this side trip into Oakland. So that's the connection that gets into Oakland. If you want to continue as a recreational ride, it goes over a block and takes the least busy street I know of through Oakland. This is a one-way street, so this is definitely a counterclockwise loop. So that's getting from CMU into Oakland using low traffic routes and bike lanes wherever possible. And the other thing that you want to do is go to Squirrel Hill. So Squirrel Hill is off to the east, and we'll add back in those two loops so you can see what's going on. The business district of Squirrel Hill is this area in yellow, and the chief reason you might want to go to Squirrel Hill is the grocery store. The big grocery store near to campus is the Giant Eagle supermarket. If you're new in town, Giant Eagle is the major supermarket chain in town. It's sometimes called the Big Bird. So that's a destination that a lot of people care about, and let's look at how we do that. So you start here again on campus at the clock, come out by Frew Street, And then Shenley Drive through the park has 8-foot shoulders on both sides. So it's uphill, but it's an easy ride uphill. And when you get to the top of the golf course, if you go straight, you go in Forbes Avenue. But Forbes Avenue at this point no longer has a bike lane, and it's got a lot of traffic. So instead of riding on Forbes Avenue, we slide over 1 block to the south to the next road over, which is Darlington Road, go up Darlington Road, and now the loop that we designed goes to Darlington Road and then continues on Whiteman, which has bike lanes as far as Beacon. If you want to go into Squirrel Hill, you have 2 choices. One is to continue on Darlington, which puts you here on Murray Avenue in the business district. Go 1 block south, turn up Bartlett and go in this entrance to the grocery store parking lot. The thing about this is that Darlington is one way to the east, and so coming home, you'll need to use Bartlett to go back to the west as far as Whiteman. And at that point, you'd probably prefer to go to Darlington because Bartlett goes way downhill. The other thing you can do is turn on the bike lanes on Whiteman, and Beacon is a 2-way, a nice wide street. Roy actually likes it better than Darlington. So take Whiteman down to Beacon, Beacon over, and then go straight at the stoplight on Beacon and turn into the grocery store parking lot here. So that's the way to get to Squirrel Hill. And if you're just out looking for some exercise, probably the hilliest bit is this area down in the lower part of Shenley Park. But these loops will get you into Shenley Park, which is a really nice park and has lots of interesting things to see as well. So that's the bike loops near CMU, and back over to Nick as moderator.
All right, thank you both. I'll put another call out for questions. If anybody has questions, we're monitoring the Facebook comments. I'm curious from both of you, what is cycling like in CMU now? Are there any obstructions, or is it pretty easy to get around with less people?
There's a mandate for wearing masks on campus, and so when we go out to ride these loops, the state mandate for masks says if you're outdoors and you can consistently maintain physical distancing, then you don't need to wear a mask. And I will say that on these roads, it's probably easier to maintain distancing while bicycling than while walking because the trails are pretty busy. But we carry masks, and so when we cut across campus from Forbes over to Fruh Street, we put masks on, but no physical obstructions unless they're doing shots. Sometimes they use this area in here for shots, but if they do, they've got signs out and you can just cut across one of the sidewalks to the other side of the cut. Come down here and take this diagonal line back up. So no other obstructions I know of.
Great. Okay, we've got a question from Zane. What's the fastest route to reach campus from Murray Avenue?
Probably.
How assertive are you? If you're on Murray Avenue, it depends on where on Murray. But I would personally go Darlington, and Shenley Drive because of the traffic. But if you're going over to the north side of campus, Forbes Avenue downhill has Sharrows, Forbes Avenue uphill has a bike lane, but I think the bike lane up Forbes is steeper than Shenley Drive.
Yeah, personally, I would use either depending on which part of campus I were going to. I might split off and go north on Forbes or go through Shenley. The Shenley Drive that's part of the loop is definitely the more mellow in terms of traffic. Because even though Forbes is downhill, occasionally cars will try to overtake you going really quickly. The climb is pretty stiff, and the climb up Shenley is easier, like Mary said. So it kind of depends on where you want to end up.
Yeah, I was assuming that you wanted to come back from campus to Murray Avenue as well as going from Murray Avenue to campus.
Good point.
So there's another question is how to use the bike light on Morewood.
What bike lane on Morewood?
The light at the intersection of Morewood and what is it, Forbes? There's a two-stage,
Forbes.
fifth, excuse me. No, Forbes.
Forbes, yeah, sorry. Karen, this is yours.
Bike light. I'm actually.
Well, there's a two-stage turning box there. So there's,
I thought you meant light as in like down further on Forbes at Pitt campus.
Right.
Um,
The turning box. Yeah, this is assuming that you're headed eastbound on Forbes and you're trying to turn left on Moorwood. Right?
Is that what you meant, Anna? Okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so basically, if you, Mary, if you can slide the light over, I mean the the map over.
There.
Yep. That's probably the busiest intersection. It's definitely the busiest intersection in CMU campus. But essentially a two-stage box is meant so that you can more easily make a left turn. And what you'd want to do is coming up Forbes Avenue, there's the green box marks like an easy, safe place for you to wait. So you would come up Forbes Avenue and wait in the green box. And then when the light changes for the Moorwood Avenue traffic, you can then proceed on Moorwood. So it makes it almost like you were going to be a pedestrian, but it's reserving space for a bicycle.
Right, and you stay on the right-hand side of the road all the time. You don't get over into the left turning lane.
Exactly. So that you're not mixing it up with cars. It's a safer way to do it. I personally have gone in the left turn lane, but that's with not much traffic.
I actually used this box yesterday, and I believe there's actually a signal there as well. If you're in the cutout, the little green cutout, I think there's a signal with pedestrians to go.
Yeah, actually that whole intersection has been improved a lot. When they redid Forbes Avenue, that was a major goal because that intersection used to have, I mean, it has tons of pedestrians, lots of bikers, and it was kind of terrifying, honestly. Now there's a lot more room for the pedestrians. It's more ADA compliant for anyone that has to use a wheelchair. The turning box. The next one on the list to fix is Moorwood and 5th. That's going to take a while, but eventually CMU is kind of working with the city on plans to greatly improve that intersection, because you might have noticed right now there's a ton of pedestrians there as well. There's a bus stop. It's a popular bike route. And there kind of isn't room for everybody that needs to be there at one time.
That's going to be a big project, because although this map depicts it as a standard intersection, it's really offset. And so in order to get it straightened out, they're going to have to move dirt as well as putting paint down.
But it's coming.
It's high on everybody's list.
Yeah.
Talking about turning boxes, there's another turning box down here. If you come down Forbes Avenue toward Oakland, and as I said, Forbes Avenue is one-way eastbound in this area. So there's a bike lane coming in from the CMU side, and you come up to the bike lane here, and there's a bicycle, explicitly bicycle light to control this intersection, where the traffic is trying to turn left, because there's a lot of confusion here because of the conversion to one way. And then the bicycle lane, so it's got a bicycle signal here, and then down here there's another turning box. Just right at this moment, Bigelow Boulevard is closed for construction, so there's no big deal. But when they open Bigelow again, it will have bike lanes, and this may change. But there's another turning box here at intersection E, so that you can go through the light that's controlling the Shenley Drive traffic, and then be positioned to be on the right-hand side of the road when the light turns for you.
Yeah, it's slightly complicated, but honestly so much safer than it used to be.
Oh, and now that I think of it, there's a box at Belfield also. So if you're headed eastbound on Forbes, and for some reason you want to turn left on Belfield, there's a green box here. So you come down the right-hand side of Forbes Avenue in the bike lane, pull out in the little green box, wait for the light to change, and then proceed through the light on the right-hand side of Belfield.
And Bike Pittsburgh actually has a couple of helpful videos about how to use bike boxes that come in really handy. Okay. Just to plug, we have a couple of D lists that, mailing lists for email on CMU campus. One is for the Bike Advisory Committee, and that is sort of our on-campus advocacy group. It's under the Parking and Transportation Advisory Committee umbrella. And basically we work to make sure that campus entities are taking the needs of cyclists into account as best we can. Field lots of complaints about bike parking.
But bike parking is so much better than it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's getting better all the time, for sure. And we have another D list called CMU Bike Curious. And that is just to promote bike-related events such as this week's seminars and other things you might want to know about. Bike Pittsburgh is also a really good resource. They have a newsletter with all kinds of useful information. And again, they have a good set of videos on their website that show how to use all of these different new types of infrastructure that we have. Let's see, I was going to mention something else about Shenley, but Mary, have you been to some of the areas in Shenley that we talked about this summer that were under construction? Do you know if there's still some closed trails?
The one closure that I remember was where the road comes under the Boulevard of the Allies. That was closed for a few days, but that's open now.
Okay.
And the other thing, well, Shenley has a lot of trails in it. I didn't talk about the trails, and the reason I didn't talk about the trails and didn't use them when I was designing these bike loops is that the trails are just really, really busy with pedestrians. And I didn't particularly want to dump a whole lot more bicycles in there. But there are problems with connectivity on the trails that I probably don't need to go into if I'm not talking about the trails. But there is one thing I will mention, which is Serpentine Drive, which is, so you will see this swooping street, and that's a hint that there's a lot of elevation difference between Darlington and Bartlett. This is a swooping drive that was a road until a year and a half ago when part of it collapsed and they closed it off. Right now it has jersey barriers at the top and the bottom, and it is open to pedestrians and bicyclists. The jersey barriers get moved every now and again, and sometimes the jersey barriers down here get moved in such a way that it's a little tricky to get past. There's a curb cut and a sidewalk, and the sidewalk kind of gives way to a curb cut up here. Right now, and for the last month, the jersey barriers have been arranged so that you can come up the curb cut here and get down right beside the jersey barrier. The jersey barrier is parked in a curb cut, which I don't understand. But you can get down on the upstream side of the curb cut. If you're pulling a trailer with a kid in it, it's a little tricky to get it exactly right. But if you're on a single bike, you can get past that jersey barrier. And then there are big gaps in the jersey barriers at the top. So that is not currently a problem.
Yeah, that's actually a really nice route to going through Shenley Park that way.
Yeah, if you want to see the best of the park, this park loop takes you past the Neil Log House, past the golf course, past Westinghouse Memorial and Pond, a little ways up the cycle track. There's a playground here, and then you can climb up past a picnic pavilion that's not so interesting during COVID, but is otherwise. There's a swimming pool down here. There's another log house, a couple more shelters, the disc golf course, the skating rink, the tennis courts. So this, all of Shenley Park is on this Overlook the Hills loop. That's your access path to the best of Shenley.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's just about all we wanted to cover. If there's any questions, let us know. And by all means, if anyone from the CMU community wants to try some of these things and has further questions, please feel free to contact us. If we can't answer your question, we will put you in touch with someone who can. We are not doing group rides at the moment just because of social distancing. However, if anyone wanted to get some personal help, like, okay, how do I get from my house to campus? How do I get from here to there? Let us know, and I'm sure one of us or we could find someone who would be willing to ride with you if that would make you feel safer. Do like a what's the term?
Bike pool?
Bike pool, yeah. Instead of carpool, bike pool.
But sometimes just a suggestion about which roads are low traffic and which hills are shallowest is what someone needs to find a way from home.
Yep. You're not going to be able to avoid hills in Pittsburgh, but you can definitely find alternates that aren't as bad most of the time. definitely around campus. And
All right. Well, thank you
yeah,
so much, Karen and Mary. Appreciate you both joining us. Again, these will be available on the Bike Pittsburgh YouTube page starting next week. And I believe this video will be on the CMU Bike Advisory Facebook for a while.
Okay, and thank you for hosting. Thank Bike Pittsburgh for organizing this. Happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.